Hey everybody, welcome back into another video. This is a follow-up video from a video I did last week about how to practice like Michael Brecker and talking about these ideas from Gary Campbell, Michael Brecker, Rick Margitza, and somebody that I actually didn't know about, Alvin Batiste, who apparently originally came up with this idea according to some of the people in the comments. So if you haven't checked that one out, I'm going to put a card somewhere. I suggest you go and check out that video first, but definitely make sure you come back to this one because this is where we're going to get to some of the application. And I had a lot of comments that were asking for, how do I put this over tunes? How do I actually apply this idea of practicing in all these different orders? And I'm going to do a couple of videos about this because there are a lot of different ways to approach it, just like any good concept. This one can be applied in a lot of different ways. So we want to explore a bunch of those. But today we're going to talk about sequencing and how you can apply this idea to sequencing. So first of all, what is sequencing? Sequencing is basically taking an idea and moving it around through a bunch of different keys, but never changing the core idea. And largely, that's what we looked at in the last video. Remember, I gave you this idea in a minor key. It was playing the scale degrees 5, 3, 2, 1. And then taking that short idea and just taking it through all these different orders, half steps, whole steps, minor thirds, major thirds, circle of fourths, tritones. So I think after you digest that idea and maybe practice some things using it, now we can get to this application stage without making too much of a mental leap. So we're going to talk about how to apply this through sequencing. And one more little thing before we dive into this. Just a caveat that these are my ideas. This is the way that I think about this thing. This is what makes the most sense to me as far as how to apply this. If it makes no sense to you to think about it the way that I think about it, that's totally fine. We're going to investigate other ways that may click with you a little bit more. So as we're going through this, just keep that in mind. Essentially, I'm just, brain dumping the way that my mind works onto you and hoping that it helps, hoping that it's something that you can use. But there's nothing wrong with you if it doesn't click with you. Maybe another one of the ways that we investigate this concept will click with you better in the future. Just wanted to mention that because there's been a lot of things in my life where I've thought to myself, I should understand this. This should make sense to me. But it just wasn't the way that I thought about music and application. And eventually I found a better way. I don't want you thinking like I did, like there's something wrong with me if this is not the way that it works for me. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into it. So let's dive into a little PDF worksheet and a keyboard where I can explain this just a lot more clearly and in depth. Okay, everybody, so the very, very first thing that we need to do is we need to come up with a sequence. So on the last video, I had talked about doing this sequence on a minor scale that was 5, 3, 2, 1. So we're just going to keep that, but we're going to make it major. So here it is in the key of E flat, 5, 3, 2, 1. A very popular pattern in jazz. Most of the time people play it 1, 2, 3, 5, but we're just going to reverse it, play 5, 3, 2, 1. Now, the reason that I wanted to make it major is because we are going to apply this stuff over a blues, a 12-bar blues, a major blues. So we just wanted to make it a little bit simpler because we're playing over largely major chords and we're resolving to major chords. We wanted to use a major sequence. So everything will be dealing with that sequence, 5, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now we're going to talk about application over the blues. And the places that we're going to use this are based off of two major cadential points in the blues. Now, what are cadences? Well, in music, a cadence is the end of a phrase in which the melody or harmony creates a sense of full or partial resolution. And in this case, all of our cadences are 5 to 1 root motion. So here's the one that most of you will instantly recognize, 2, 5, 1. That's a major cadential point in the blues. So if B flat is the end of our cadence, the resolution point, that's what we're going to call our target chord. Now, the one that people maybe don't think about as much is there's another cadential point in the blues that's maybe a little bit disguised, where at the beginning of the blues we have 1, 4, 1, and then a lot of us think about this as another 1 chord, but really if you want to level up your improvisation, you will think about this second bar of B flat as being a 5 of 4, and you can use it as that cadential point we just talked about. So if we think about the B flat chord as not the 1 chord in this bar, but we think about it as the 5 of 4, we get another target chord, and that's the 4 chord. So these are going to be the 2 that we are using in today's video to start to explore this sequencing and this order of events. A lot of times people will think about this bar as being a B flat 7 flat 9 to like build in some of that tension, and then you could hear the cadence a little bit better. So you can kind of hear it built in a little bit more if we use a little bit of that tension in the chord. So that's the first thing we need to understand. Now let's dive into using some of this sequencing. Okay, so now here's where we start to get into some of our orders. So remember, the first order was half steps. So what we need to do is we need to work backward in order to be able to use this sequencing. So I know that over this E flat chord where the cadence resolves over my target chord, I want to play 5, 3, 2, 1 over that chord. So here I've decided that I want to sequence in half steps, and I want to move down through those half steps. So if I go up a half step from E flat, I get E, and you'll notice that I'm just playing 5, 3, 2, 1 in E, and then I go up another half step and I get to F. So 5, 3, 2, 1 in F. So here I'm building tension, and then I'm releasing it through the use of this sequencing. And it really is just as simple as that. So here I'm playing. And the cool thing is that the ear, here's something funny going on here. Oh, he's not playing stuff that fits over this B flat 7 chord. But then over the course of you playing this, the listener's ear really grabs onto the fact that we're playing something strong in terms of an idea, and then we're moving it through a strong order, which in this case is down by half steps. Don't worry, you'll get a chance to hear me play that in context, but let's go down here and look at this. So now we're going to use one of our other orders. This time we want to use whole steps. Here I want to play 5, 3, 2, 1 over this chord in a very obvious fashion. What do? Well, I'm going to go up a whole step each time. So C, up a whole step from B flat, D, up a whole step, E, up a whole step, F sharp, up a whole step. And you notice this time I extended it. In this one, we only did 1 measure of the sequencing. In this, we're using 2 measures of the sequencing. So we get this. And again, this is going to create a lot of tension. Think about what's really happening here. A concert C minor 7 chord is happening here. And we start by playing F sharp major over the top of that C minor 7 chord. But again, the beauty of this is that the ear latches onto a strong idea, moving through a strong and logical progression of keys, and then we hear the resolution. And the resolution honestly makes it all okay. So let's see what this sounds like in context with all of the rest of the measures filled in. Okay, in my opinion, sounds pretty cool. Now, of course, this was just a demonstration, so you may have noticed like a couple of rough transitions between like what I was playing here and this, or what I was playing here and this, and that's going to be part of my practice routine, is to figure out how to get it in there seamlessly like it was the logical next thing to play. Okay, let's go to another idea. Let's look at 2 more of our orders. So this one, we're using minor thirds. And did you also notice that I extended it back so that it's 2 measures? I'm still moving down through the minor thirds so that I land on this E flat, my target chord. So if I go backward, up a minor third from E flat is F sharp, then A, then C, then E flat. And again, I'm just playing that exact idea, that 5, 3, 2, 1 over all of them. it's so interesting because it just gives a completely different effect depending on that order that we're moving it through. Okay, so now let's widen that minor third at our second cadential point, and now let's use major thirds. And this time we're gonna ascend through those major thirds. So again, if I go to my target chord, now I'm gonna go down a major third, which is gonna be F sharp. Then I'm gonna go down another major third, D, B flat, F sharp. And honestly, just going from descending to ascending is going to completely change the sound of the line, on top of now making it major thirds instead of minor thirds. So it's going to sound like this. Now, how come I didn't keep going up at the end? Well, on saxophone, that's going to be pretty high. And also, look, I discovered something else. I'm on an F sharp here as my last note, and then a half step away is F natural. So I started considering some voice leading concerns as well. And you see, that's the beauty of this, is once you start down the path of experimenting with this, you start to realize there is so much you can do. All right, let's hear this one in context, and this is going to sound completely different from the last one. Those are pretty cool. And particularly here, it's very unexpected. You don't hear a lot of people doing this in bar 3 of the blues. So it really grabs your listener. A lot of people will think about it here, but not think about it here so much. So this can be a great way to really engage your listener and the rhythm section you're playing with. And this is literally the direct application of what we were talking about in the last video to an actual tune. And the beauty of this is that there's cadences in basically every tune that you will play. Let's call it 90% of the tunes that you will play will have at least one cadence in them. So at the most basic level, this is how to take the idea of practicing through these orders and use it in cadential points in whatever you're playing to create this kind of effect that I just demonstrated to you. Now again, you could use any idea you want, and that's the beauty of this. It's the orders combined with the ideas that create the effect. And you can literally practice this for the rest of your life and not exhaust all the ideas. And I really want to emphasize this fact that it's not about taking what I'm showing you and applying it directly. That might be a good way to start. But really, I want you to understand the thinking behind this and then go and run your own experiments. Come up with your own ideas. Use my examples and then run with them to find your own way of doing this, your own voice. Go up through the sequence of keys, go down through the sequence of keys, rearrange the note order from key to key. If you think you're done with this and you think you've exhausted all the possibilities, I challenge you to think for a couple of minutes and you will realize that you've never exhausted all the possibilities. And if you could start to think like that, that is going to make sure that you never run out of things to practice. One more thing to think about before I let you go, start looking for this in things you're transcribing or music that you're listening to. Keep an ear out for this. So that's it. All that's left to do is get in the practice room and start fleshing out some of these ideas. Start developing enough fluency with this stuff to where you can actually play it and utilize it in your improvised statements. It's not going to be a short process, but it is going to be a very fruitful one, and you're going to discover a whole lot of things along the journey. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I'm just going to continue with this series because I think people are really, really interested in it. And the next video is going to be on sort of the same ideas, but using devices that you could be a lot more creative with and taking this sequencing idea to sort of the next level. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this has provided you with some new thoughts and some value and something to work on in the practice room. And we will see you on the next video. Bye, everyone.